Admiral Tae-ho Kim was eating his lunch when the aliens arrived. The meal was nothing special, just standard military rations heated in the microwave. Beef stew with vegetables if the package could be trusted. He sat at his desk on Luna Station, looking out at Earth through the big window while chewing slowly. Captain Bora Lee walked into his office without knocking. She never knocked. After 15 years working together, she had stopped bothering with most formalities. "Sir, we have visitors," she said. "The big, scary kind." Tae-ho looked up from his food. "How big and how scary?" 17 ships, each one the size of a city block. They're sitting just outside our defense grid, broadcasting surrender terms in 43 languages. 43? That's thorough of them. Tae-ho took another bite of stew. What do they call themselves? The Velthari Galactic Empire. Their leader is Admiral Kethmos, Supreme Commander of the Conquest Fleet, bringer of submission to lesser species. Bora paused. "That's his actual title, sir." "Sounds like someone has confidence issues," Tae-ho said. He pushed his meal aside and stood up. "I suppose we should hear what they have to say." Set up the meeting room. "The big one with the holographic display? Should I call the other admirals? The president? Maybe the UN? Not yet. Let's see what these Velthari want first. No point in waking everyone up for a simple conversation." Bora shrugged. "Your call, sir." An hour later, Admiral Kethmos materialized in the meeting room as a hologram. He was tall, maybe 8 feet, with purple skin and 4 arms. His uniform was covered in medals and ribbons. Gold braids hung from his shoulders. Even as a projection, he managed to look down at the humans with obvious disdain. Tae-ho sat across from the hologram, still finishing his lunch. Bora sat beside him, playing a game on her tablet. Communications Officer Dal-Soo Park stood near the recording equipment, trying not to smile. "I am Admiral Kethmos," the alien began. His voice was deep and booming. "I speak for His Imperial Majesty Emperor Veldrak, ruler of 17 star systems, master of 400 billion subjects, the—" "That's nice," Tae-ho interrupted. "What can we do for you?" The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You dare interrupt a formal address from the Velthari Empire?" "Well, yes. We're busy people. Could you get to the point?" Kethmos straightened to his full height. "Very well. Humans of the species called Terran, you have been selected for integration into the Galactic Empire. Your resistance is futile. Your technology is primitive. Your military forces are laughably small." Bora looked up from her game. Did he just call us laughable? "That's rich. Continue," Tae-ho said to the alien. "You have 72 of your planetary rotations to surrender unconditionally. You will disarm all military vessels. You will submit to imperial governance. Your leaders will present themselves for processing. Compliance will result in standard subjugation protocols. Resistance will result in total extermination." "Standard subjugation protocols?" Dal-Soo asked. "What does that involve?" "Your species will be relocated to designated sectors. Your resources will be harvested for the Empire. Your strongest individuals will serve in our labor forces. Your most intelligent will assist in technological development. The rest will be managed," Bora snorted. "Managed? Like cattle. You compare yourselves to livestock?" Kethmos seemed pleased. "How fitting. You understand your place in the natural order?" Tae-ho leaned back in his chair. "Tell me something, Admiral. How many species have you conquered with this approach?" 17 star systems. 400 billion beings, all surrendered within days of receiving our ultimatum. All of them? Every single one? Of course. When faced with the might of the Empire, resistance becomes impossible. Our ships are powerful beyond your imagination. Our weapons can destroy planets. Our soldiers are trained from birth for conquest. Tae-ho nodded slowly. "I see. And these 17 systems, did any of them fight back?" "Even a little?" "The Corvani attempted a brief skirmish. Their entire fleet was destroyed in minutes." "How big was their fleet?" 6 vessels. Bora looked up again. 6 whole ships. My goodness, what a massive battle that must have been. The sarcasm was lost on Kethmos. Indeed, it was a glorious victory for the Empire. Tae-ho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the alien ships hanging in space like dark clouds. They were big, he had to admit. Impressive looking. But something about them bothered him. "Admiral, can I ask you about your formation?" "Our formation?" "Your ship positioning. The way you've arranged your fleet." Kethmos looked confused. "What about it?" Well, you've got your command ship in the center, surrounded by your escorts. Classic defensive positioning. But you're supposed to be delivering an ultimatum. Shouldn't you be spread out to show your strength? Maybe positioned for attack? Our formation is perfect for any situation. Is it, though? Tejo turned back to face the hologram. Because from here it looks like you're clustered together like you're afraid of something. Like maybe you're not as confident as you sound. The alien's skin darkened to a deeper purple. How dare you question the tactical superiority of the Empire? I'm not questioning it, Tejo said calmly. I'm observing it. And what I observe is a fleet arranged for protection, not attack. Which makes me wonder, who are you protecting yourselves from? Bora set down her tablet. Maybe they're worried we might do something unpredictable. The human species poses no threat to the Empire, Kethmos declared. Then why the defensive formation? Dalsu asked. It is not defensive. It is optimal. Optimal for what? The alien paused. For maximum intimidation effect. Tejo laughed. It wasn't a polite chuckle or a diplomatic response. It was a genuine laugh, the kind that happens when someone says something unexpectedly funny. Intimidation? Admiral, with respect, you look like a parade that got lost. Bora started giggling. Dalsu tried to keep a straight face but failed. A parade? Kethmos's voice rose an octave. A very pretty one, Tejo added. All those ships lined up so neatly. Very decorative. Are those lights purely ornamental? Or do they serve some tactical purpose? Those are plasma discharge indicators showing our weapons are charged and ready. Ah, so you're flying around with your weapons constantly active? That must use a lot of power. Power consumption is irrelevant to the Empire, is it? Because I'm looking at your energy signatures and it seems like you're running pretty hot. How long can you maintain that level of output? The hologram flickered slightly. As long as necessary. Interesting. Our analysts estimate maybe 6 hours before you have to cycle down for cooling. Is that about right? Kethmos said nothing. Tejo sat back down. Well, this has been educational. You've delivered your ultimatum. We've listened politely. Is there anything else? You will provide your answer in 72 rotations. Oh, we can do better than that. Dalsu, do we have that compilation ready? Dalsu grinned. Yes, sir. Director Sujin Choi finished it this morning. Compilation? The alien asked. Your previous conquests. We've been studying your tactical approaches. Very informative. Tejo nodded to Dalsu, who activated another holographic display. The new projection showed the Velthari fleet in action against the Corvani. 6 small ships faced 17 massive ones. The battle was over in minutes, just as Kethmos had said. But the human analysis was brutal. Notice how the Empire focuses all fire on a single target. Sujin Choi's voice narrated over the footage. Tactically sound but wasteful. They could have achieved the same result with 3 ships instead of 17. Also note the complete lack of defensive maneuvering. The Corvani ships barely moved, suggesting they were either unprepared for combat or simply had no experience with it. The video continued, showing other conquests. Each one followed the same pattern. Massive, overwhelming force against tiny, unprepared opponents. In summary, Choi's voice concluded, the Velthari Empire appears to specialize in attacking peaceful civilizations with vastly superior numbers. Their actual combat experience against prepared opponents is 0. Their tactical flexibility is minimal. Their resource management is inefficient. Rating. Needs improvement. The hologram of Kethmos had turned almost black with rage. How dare you analyze sacred imperial victories? Sacred? Bora asked. These were battles? They look more like bullying sessions. The Empire does not bully. The Empire conquers. Sure you do, Tejo said. Well, Admiral, you've given us a lot to think about. We'll be in touch. You will surrender. You have no choice. We always have choices. That's what makes us human. The hologram flickered and disappeared. In the silence that followed, Dalsu started laughing first. Then Bora joined in. Finally, even Tejo couldn't help himself. Sir, Bora said when she caught her breath, I think we just made some very powerful enemies. Did we? Or did we just meet some very loud neighbors who need to be taught some manners? Outside the window, the alien fleet maintained its defensive formation. Waiting for humanity's response, they wouldn't have to wait long. The next morning, engineer Minho Jiang was in his workshop on Mars Colony when his assistant brought him coffee and the latest news from Earth. Sir, have you seen what happened with the aliens? Minho looked up from the holographic projector he was repairing. You mean our new neighbors? What about them? They gave us 3 days to surrender. Admiral Kim laughed at them. Good for him. Did you bring sugar with this coffee? In the dispenser, sir. But don't you want to know what we're going to do about the invasion? Minho tested his projector. A small alien ship appeared in the air above his workbench. What invasion? I see a bunch of ships sitting in space making demands. That's not an invasion. That's a tantrum. But sir, they have 17 warships. And we have something better. We have creativity. Minho adjusted the projector settings. Watch this. The holographic alien ship began moving in jerky, awkward patterns. Minho had programmed it to recreate the Velthari attack on the Corvani, but with added commentary. Cartoon-style arrows pointed out every tactical mistake. A laugh track played every time the aliens wasted shots on empty space. This is brilliant, sir. Are you making fun of them? I'm educating people. There's a difference. Minho saved his work and uploaded it to the colony's entertainment network. Everyone should know what they're really dealing with. 3 hours later, the video had been viewed 2 million times. By evening, it was the most popular program in the solar system. On Europa Station, psychologist Yoon Ji-yu was giving an interview to the news networks. She sat calmly in her office while reporters asked questions about humanity's response to the alien threat. Dr. Yu, what do you make of the Velthari ultimatum? From a psychological perspective, it's fascinating. The Empire shows classic signs of overcompensation. Notice how they need to announce their power constantly. Truly confident entities don't need to do that. Are you saying they're insecure? I'm saying they display behaviors consistent with deep-rooted inadequacy issues. The need to dominate peaceful species, the excessive titles, the theatrical demands for submission. It all suggests an organization built on fear rather than genuine strength. But they've conquered 17 star systems. Have they, though? Or have they simply absorbed 17 systems that never fought back? There's a difference between conquest and collection. The interview was broadcast across human space. Within hours, alien monitoring stations began picking up the signal. The psychological analysis spread through the galactic communication networks like wildfire. On Titan mining platform, Dongwu Shin was having the time of his life. The Velthari had decided to demonstrate their power by destroying an asteroid near Saturn's rings. They wanted to show humanity what happened to those who opposed the Empire. Dongwu watched through his mining suit's helmet as the alien ships charged their weapons. A crowd of miners had gathered to witness the terrifying display of Imperial might. Betting pool is still open, called out his supervisor. I've got 50 credits on them missing the target completely. That's not fair, Dongwu replied. The asteroid is the size of a city. Even they can't miss something that big. The alien ships fired. 17 beams of energy struck the asteroid simultaneously. The rock exploded in a flash of light and debris. The miners watched in silence for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Not bad, Dongwu announced over the radio. I give it a 3 out of 10. Only 3? His supervisor asked. The explosion was pretty but completely wasteful. They used 17 ships to destroy one rock. I could have done the same job with a single mining charge and saved everyone the energy costs. Also, they scattered debris all over the shipping lanes. Someone's going to have to clean that up. Professional miners rate alien demonstration as inefficient and messy, reported the news networks later that day. Local experts suggest the Empire needs training in proper resource management. The story spread across the colonies. Humans began rating everything the aliens did. Their formations got scores for artistic merit. Their weapon displays were judged on efficiency and environmental impact. Their threats were analyzed for literary quality. News anchor Haiyuan Kwan started a daily segment called Alien Watch. Every evening, she reported on the latest activities of the Velthari fleet, with the kind of amused detachment usually reserved for discussing weather patterns. Good evening. This is Haiyuan Kwan with your daily Alien Watch update. Today, the Velthari fleet maintained its defensive position for the 15th consecutive day. No major tactical changes were observed, though sensors detected what appeared to be internal arguments on the command ship around local time 1400 hours. She turned to face a different camera. In related news, the Empire sent another ultimatum today, this time demanding humanity acknowledge their divine right to rule. The message was accidentally broadcast on the same frequency as the Children's Educational Network. Several kindergarten classes on Luna Colony have reportedly offered to help the aliens with their obvious emotional problems. The Velthari also attempted to intimidate Earth's orbital platforms by flying very close to them while playing what our analysts describe as dramatic music. Platform workers rated the musical selection as trying too hard and suggested the Empire might benefit from hiring better composers. Tomorrow's forecast: more alien posturing, with a chance of unintentional comedy. This has been Hyewan Kwan. Good night. The broadcast reached far beyond human space. Other species throughout the galaxy began tuning in to watch the strange confrontation between the mighty Empire and the laughing humans. What they saw changed everything. The HFY had been conquered by the Velthari 2 years earlier. They lived now on designated worlds, working in Imperial factories, believing they had faced an unstoppable force. But watching the human broadcasts, they began to see their conquerors differently. Did you see how the humans analyzed the battle records? One HFY worker whispered to another during their break period. The Empire never fought anyone who shot back. The psychological evaluation was interesting too. Do you think they were right about the insecurity? Look at how they're handling this situation. The humans mock them, and what do? They hover in space making threats. If they were truly powerful, wouldn't they have attacked by now? Similar conversations were happening throughout the Empire's territories. Species that had surrendered without a fight began to question whether they had given up too easily. The humans' casual dismissal of Imperial power made others wonder if the Empire was as strong as it claimed to be. On the Velthari command ship, Admiral Kethmos was facing a crisis. His Emperor expected quick submission, but the humans refused to take the Empire seriously. Worse, their mockery was spreading throughout the galaxy. Other species were beginning to laugh at the Empire's threats. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Most appear to be jokes, satirical reviews of our previous conquests, comedic analysis of our tactics. One species has composed what they call a humorous song about our formation patterns." Kethmos felt his career slipping away. What about our allies? Our subject species? Some are requesting copies of the human broadcasts. Others are asking for explanations about the tactical critiques. The Mordoon delegation specifically wants to know why we used 17 ships against 6 targets when 4 would have been sufficient. Because it demonstrates our overwhelming power. Yes, sir, but they're questioning whether overwhelming power is the same as tactical competence. Kethmos realized that humanity had done something no species had ever attempted. Instead of fearing the Empire, they were teaching the galaxy not to fear it. Every joke, every analysis, every casual dismissal chipped away at the foundation of Imperial authority. "Sir," another officer approached carefully, "the Emperor is requesting a status update. Tell His Imperial Majesty that the humans require additional time to process the magnitude of their situation. And if he asks for specifics, tell him they're considering their options." It wasn't entirely a lie. The humans were considering their options. They were just doing it while laughing at everything the Empire stood for. And somehow that laughter was becoming the most dangerous weapon the Velthari had ever faced. Outside the command ship, the human colonies continued their daily routines. Children went to school. Workers maintained the platforms. Miners extracted resources. Scientists conducted research. All of them occasionally glancing at the alien fleet with the mild interest usually reserved for unusual cloud formations. The Empire had demanded fear and submission. Instead, they had received indifference seasoned with amusement. And across the galaxy, other species were beginning to understand the difference. Emperor Veldrak was not used to being laughed at. For 300 years, his empire had expanded across the galaxy by making other species tremble at the mention of his name. Now, somewhere in a primitive system called Sol, creatures were making jokes about his military. "The humans mock us," he told his war council. "Their disrespect spreads throughout the galaxy like a disease. This ends now. Your Imperial Majesty," Admiral Kethmos began carefully, "perhaps we should consider a diplomatic approach. No more diplomacy, no more ultimatums. Attack their outer colonies. Show the galaxy what happens to those who dare laugh at the Empire." Within hours, the Velthari fleet moved toward the human settlements on the edge of the solar system. They targeted Proxima Station first, a small research outpost with minimal defenses. It should have been an easy victory. Fighter pilot Jiwoo Nam was running maintenance on her ship when the alert came through. All pilots to stations. We have incoming hostiles. She grabbed her helmet and ran toward the hangar bay. Around her, other pilots were doing the same, but nobody seemed particularly worried. If anything, they looked excited. Finally, her wingman Taemin Park said as they reached their fighters, "I was starting to think they were all talk." "Don't get overconfident," Jiwoo replied, climbing into her cockpit. "They might actually know how to fight. Want to bet on it?" "What kind of bet?" "First one to make an alien pilot panic has to buy drinks for a month." Jiwoo started her engines. "You're on." The human fighters launched just as the Velthari ships came into weapons range. Jiwoo expected to see the aliens spread out in some kind of attack formation. Instead, they were flying in the same tight defensive cluster they had maintained for weeks. "Control, this is Ghost Leader. Are we sure these guys know they're supposed to be attacking us?" "That's affirmative, Ghost Leader. Sensors show all weapons charged and ready." "Well, they're not acting like it. They look like they're afraid we might hurt them." The alien ships opened fire, sending streams of energy toward the human fighters. Jiwoo watched the beams pass harmlessly around her ship. "Was that supposed to hit me?" she asked over the radio. "Their targeting is terrible," Taemin replied. "It's like they've never fought anything that moves before." Jiwoo decided to test a theory. She flew straight toward the alien formation, not dodging or weaving, just maintaining a steady course. The enemy ships fired repeatedly, but every shot missed by a wide margin. "Control, I think they're programmed to hit stationary targets. They can't adjust for moving objects." "Copy that, Ghost Leader. All fighters are cleared to engage." What followed was less like a battle and more like a flying lesson. The human pilots treated the combat like an extreme sport, performing loops and rolls while maintaining casual conversation over the radio. "Taemin, you've got one on your tail." "Which one? The guy shooting behind me or the guy shooting where I was 10 seconds ago?" "The second one. He seems confused about how momentum works. Should I put him out of his misery? Give him a chance to figure it out first. It's more educational that way." The alien pilots, meanwhile, were discovering that their training had prepared them for targets that stayed still and didn't shoot back. The human fighters moved in ways that seemed impossible, changing direction at speeds that should have killed their pilots. Worse, they were doing it while laughing. "Ghost Leader, this is Ghost 7. I think I broke one of them." "What do you mean, broke?" "He's just flying in circles now. His weapon systems are offline, and he keeps broadcasting what sounds like crying." "That's the sound of someone having an existential crisis," Jiwoo replied. "Be gentle with him." On Proxima Station, Marine Commander Kyung-soo Han was implementing what he had dubbed Operation Slapstick. His troops were defending the station using tactics that violated every military manual ever written, remember? He told his Marines over the comm system, "Confusion is our greatest weapon. Make them think they're fighting crazy people." "Sir, aren't we actually fighting like crazy people? There's a difference between acting crazy and being crazy. We're acting crazy for a tactical advantage. That's completely sane." The Velthari ground troops had landed expecting to face terrified defenders hiding behind barricades. Instead, they found Marines who seemed to be having a party. Demolitions expert Yuna Ko was planting charges while humming a popular song. When the aliens approached her position, she waved cheerfully before setting off an explosion that sent them running in panic. "Was that supposed to be an ambush?" she asked over the radio. "Because they were standing right there in the open. I could see them coming from half a kilometer away. Maybe they're not familiar with the concept of cover," suggested Sergeant Minwoo Lee. "Or stealth," added Corporal Sora Kim. "They're using active sensors, broadcasting their positions, and their armor lights up like festival decorations." The alien troops had trained for decades to assault fortified positions defended by cowering enemies. They had no idea how to handle humans who treated warfare like an elaborate game. When the Marines started playing music during the firefight, several alien soldiers simply stopped shooting and stood still, apparently unable to process what they were experiencing. "Control, this is Hammer Squad," Kyung-soo reported. "The enemy has achieved what I can only describe as tactical paralysis. They seem confused by our lack of fear." "Copy that, Hammer Squad. Are you taking casualties?" "Negative. It's hard to get hurt when the enemy keeps missing on purpose." "Missing on purpose?" "I think their training emphasizes intimidation over accuracy. They're shooting to scare us, not kill us. Problem is, we're not scared." The battle for Proxima Station lasted 6 hours. When it ended, The Velthari ground forces had suffered 60% casualties while the humans had lost 3 Marines to minor injuries. The alien survivors retreated to their ships in complete confusion, but the real damage was happening in space. Admiral Kethmos was watching his fleet fall apart against an enemy that refused to take the fight seriously. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost 9 fighters and 2 escort ships. The humans have lost nothing." "Nothing?" Their casualty reports show 3 pilots with minor injuries and 1 ship with cosmetic damage. They're treating this like a training exercise. Kethmos studied the battle data. The human fighters moved with precision and skill, but they fought with an attitude he had never encountered. They seemed to be enjoying themselves. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human commander." "Put it through." Jiwunam's voice came over the speakers, clear and cheerful. "Velthari Fleet, this is Ghost Leader. We noticed you're having some trouble with basic flight maneuvers. Would you like us to slow down so you can practice tracking moving targets?" The bridge fell silent. In 300 years of conquest, no enemy had ever offered to help them fight better. "We're also willing to provide instruction on defensive formations," Jiwu continued. "Your current cluster pattern makes it easy for us to target multiple ships at once. Very inefficient from a tactical standpoint." Kethmos found his voice. "You dare mock the Imperial Navy?" "Mock? No, sir. We're offering constructive criticism. There's a difference. Your pilots show potential, but they need work on their fundamentals. We do not need instruction from primitives. With respect, Admiral, your casualty reports suggest otherwise. But hey, if you want to keep losing ships, that's your choice. Just thought we'd offer." The transmission ended, leaving the alien bridge in shocked silence. The humans had just offered tactical advice to their enemies in the middle of a battle. It was the most insulting thing any of them had ever heard. "Admiral," the communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving similar reports from all attack groups. Heavy losses, minimal enemy casualties. The humans are..." "They're fighting like it's entertainment." Kethmos realized that his forces were being destroyed by an enemy that considered them amusing rather than dangerous. The humans weren't trying to kill his soldiers, they were trying to educate them. And somehow that was worse than any conventional defeat. "Recall all forces," he ordered. "Regroup at safe distance." "Sir? Are we retreating?" "We are reassessing the tactical situation." As the Velthari ships pulled back, the human defenders began cleanup operations. Jiwu landed her fighter and found mechanics already analyzing the alien weapon hits on her hull. "Interesting," one of them said. "Their energy output is actually quite impressive. It's just their targeting that's terrible. Can we fix that?" Jiwu asked. "Fix what?" "Their targeting systems. If we're going to keep fighting them, it would be more interesting if they could actually hit something." The mechanic stared at her. "You want to help the enemy become more dangerous?" "I want them to become more challenging. Right now they're just sad." Across human space, similar conversations were taking place. The Velthari attack had failed completely, but instead of celebrating victory, humans were discussing ways to improve their enemy's performance. It was perhaps the most devastating response possible. The Empire had sought to demonstrate their power through conquest. Instead, they had demonstrated their incompetence to the entire galaxy. And the humans, in their casual way, were offering to help them do better next time. For a military organization built on fear and intimidation, there could be no greater humiliation. The battle at Proxima Station became the most watched event in galactic history, not because of its strategic importance, but because of how completely it changed everything. Everyone thought they knew about warfare. Intelligence Officer Sarah was reviewing the intercepted communications in her office on Luna Station when she discovered something interesting. The aliens were getting messages from across the galaxy, and not all of them were supportive. "Admiral Kim," she called over the intercom, "you need to see this." Tejo arrived a few minutes later with his usual coffee and curious expression. "What have you found?" "The Empire's own allies are questioning them. Listen to this." Sarah played a recorded transmission from the Corvani homeworld, one of the species the Velthari had conquered 2 years earlier. The voice was translated by computer, but the frustration came through clearly. "Imperial Command, this is Corvani Central Authority. We request clarification regarding recent tactical analyses broadcast by the Terran species. Specifically, we wish to understand why 17 Imperial ships were required to defeat our 6 research vessels. when the humans suggest 4 would have been sufficient. That's not the best part, Seyra continued. Here's the Empire's response, another voice, obviously Velthari. The Corvani will not question Imperial tactics. Your role is to serve, not to analyze. And here's the Corvani reply. We understand our role. However, the human analysis raises valid points about resource efficiency. Perhaps Imperial tactics could benefit from review by qualified specialists. Tejo laughed. They're asking for tactical consultants? It gets better. The Sci-Fi have started broadcasting their own comedy shows about Imperial incompetence. The Mordun are hosting discussion panels analyzing previous Imperial victories. 3 different species have asked if they can hire human military advisors. What did we tell them? We said we'd be happy to help, but they should probably ask the Empire's permission first. The galactic communication networks were buzzing with activity. Species that had lived in fear of the Empire for decades were suddenly seeing their conquerors as figure of ridicule rather than terror. The change in perspective was spreading faster than Imperial ships could travel. On the industrial world of Keplos, factory workers who had labored under Imperial rule for years were gathering in secret to watch human broadcasts. The shows had become more than entertainment, they were education about resistance. Did you see the human fighter pilot's technique? One worker whispered to his neighbor. She flew straight at the Imperial ships without fear. The Marine commander was even better. His troops acted like they were enjoying themselves. Perhaps fear is a choice, suggested an older worker. Perhaps we chose to be afraid instead of fighting back. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. The Empire's authority had always been based on the assumption that resistance was hopeless. But the humans had demonstrated something different, that the Empire could be defeated not through superior firepower, but through superior attitude. Engineer Wu Jin Bei was having the time of his life in his laboratory on Mars Colony. The humans had captured several pieces of alien technology during the battle, and he was taking them apart to see how they worked. This is fascinating, he told his assistant while examining an alien weapon. Their energy output is actually quite good. The problem is their targeting system. What's wrong with it? It's designed for stationary targets. Look at this. Wu Jin activated the weapon's holographic display. The targeting computer assumes the enemy will stay in one place long enough for the weapon to lock on. It has no predictive algorithms for moving targets. That explains why they couldn't hit our fighters. It also explains why they've only conquered peaceful species. Anyone who fought back would expose this weakness immediately. Wu Jin continued his analysis. Their ships are the same way. Big, impressive, but designed for intimidation rather than combat. Can we fix these problems? Easily. A few software updates, some hardware modifications. We could make these systems actually effective. Wu Jin paused. Should we tell them? Tell them what? How to improve their technology. It would make future battles more interesting. His assistant stared at him. You want to help them become better at fighting us? I want them to become worthy opponents. Right now, they're just embarrassing themselves. The conversation was being recorded by standard security protocols. Within hours, it had been broadcast across human space as another example of humanity's bizarre approach to the conflict. Other species couldn't understand why the humans wanted their enemies to improve. The Velthari couldn't understand it either. Emperor Veldrak was receiving reports that made no sense to him. The humans are offering to help us? He asked his advisors. Not help, Your Majesty. They are providing unsolicited analysis of our tactical performance. They criticized our weapon systems. They suggested improvements to our targeting algorithms. And our ship designs? They described them as pretty but impractical, and offered to send engineering consultants. Veldrak felt his worldview cracking. In his experience, conquered species either cowered in fear or fought desperately for survival. They didn't offer helpful suggestions to their conquerors. What do our allies say about this? They are asking questions, Your Majesty. What kind of questions? Technical questions about our previous victories. Strategic questions about resource allocation. Some have requested copies of the human analysis for their own military reviews. Our own allies doubt us. They seek understanding, Your Majesty. The human perspective has raised certain concerns about imperial effectiveness. Veldrak realized that his empire was facing something worse than rebellion. His subjects weren't rising up in anger. They were losing respect for imperial authority. The humans had managed to make the empire look foolish rather than frightening. Send word to Admiral Kethmos, he ordered. I want the human leader brought before me in chains. Which human leader, Your Majesty? Their greatest warrior, the one who leads their military forces. That would be Admiral Tae-ho Kim, Your Majesty. But our intelligence suggests he is not their greatest warrior. Then who is? According to our analysis, the humans do not appear to have a single greatest warrior. Their military effectiveness seems distributed across their entire population. That's impossible. Every species has champions, leaders, individuals of exceptional skill. The humans do as well, Your Majesty. But their champions include engineers who improve their technology, psychologists who analyze their enemies, and entertainers who undermine imperial authority through humor. Their greatest weapon appears to be their collective competence rather than individual heroism. Veldrak felt a headache building. Very well. I challenge their Admiral Kim to single combat. I will restore imperial honor through personal victory. Your Majesty, our intelligence suggests Admiral Kim is primarily an administrator. His combat skills are adequate but not exceptional. Then I will defeat him easily and demonstrate imperial superiority. Your Majesty, the humans have responded to your challenge. Good. When will Kim face me? They are not sending Kim, Your Majesty. Who then? A civilian named Myung-ja Song. According to our files, she is a retired chef who teaches cooking classes on Luna Colony. The throne room fell silent. The Emperor of the galaxy's most powerful military force had just been challenged to single combat by a grandmother who specialized in making soup. Is this some kind of joke? The human message suggested that cooking and combat require similar skills: timing, precision, creativity, and the ability to work under pressure. They believe Myung-ja Song possesses all of these qualities. They're sending a cook to fight the Emperor of the galaxy? She appears to have volunteered, Your Majesty. The human news networks are treating it as entertainment. They're taking bets on whether she will prepare a meal during the fight. Veldrak realized that accepting the challenge would make him look ridiculous, but refusing it would make him look weak. The humans had trapped him in a situation where any choice led to humiliation. What weapons has this cook chosen? She requests kitchen utensils, Your Majesty. Specifically, a good knife, a large spoon, and a portable heating unit. She wants to cook during our battle? The human message suggests she plans to prepare a traditional meal while demonstrating the inadequacy of imperial combat training. Veldrak understood that he was about to become the subject of another human joke, but he also knew that backing down would destroy what remained of imperial credibility. Very well. I accept their challenge. Schedule the combat for the full galactic audience. Your Majesty, are you certain? The entire galaxy will be watching. Let them watch. They will see an emperor destroy a cook and understand the true power of the empire. But privately, Veldrak was beginning to suspect that the humans had found a way to turn even his victory into their triumph. Somehow, everything they touched became a source of their own entertainment and everyone else's education. The galaxy was indeed watching, and learning that there might be alternatives to fear. Myung-ja Song had been making kimchi when the call came through. At 73 years old, she had raised 4 children, run 3 restaurants, and taught cooking to anyone willing to learn. She was not particularly impressed by the idea of fighting an alien emperor. Are you sure about this? Admiral Tae-ho Kim asked her over the video call. This is the leader of a galactic empire. I've dealt with difficult customers before, Myung-ja replied calmly. How hard can one cranky alien be? The combat was scheduled to take place on a neutral space station, with representatives from across the galaxy in attendance. Broadcasting rights had been sold to networks throughout known space. The event was being called the Battle of the Century by some and the galaxy's strangest cooking show by others. Myung-ja arrived at the station wearing a simple apron over practical clothes. She carried a small bag containing her knives, a portable burner, and ingredients for her grandmother's recipe for victory soup, a dish she claimed had never failed to humble arrogant men. Emperor Veldrak appeared in full ceremonial armor, carrying weapons that had been crafted by the Empire's finest artisans. His entrance was accompanied by dramatic music and formal announcements of his many titles and achievements. Citizens of the galaxy, he declared to the cameras, witness the fate of those who dare mock the Empire. That's nice. Dear, Myung-ja said, unpacking her equipment. Could you move a little to the left? You're blocking my prep area. The Emperor stared at her in disbelief. You dare treat this as a casual encounter? Combat is always casual until someone gets hurt. And since I don't plan on hurting you, we might as well keep things friendly. She began arranging her ingredients with practiced efficiency. Would you like to learn how to make victory soup while we do this? It's a very simple recipe. I did not come here to learn cooking from a primitive. That's too bad. Cooking teaches patience, timing, and precision, all valuable skills in any kind of fight. She lit her burner and began heating oil in a small pan. Your moves, by the way. Veldrak activated his plasma sword and charged forward with a battle cry that had terrified enemies across the galaxy. Myungja sidestepped without looking up from her prep work, and the Emperor crashed into the wall behind where she had been standing. Timing, she commented, dicing vegetables with smooth, efficient strokes. You committed to an attack before confirming your target's position. Very dangerous in both cooking and combat. Veldrak recovered and swung his blade in a wide arc designed to cut his opponent in half. Myungja ducked under the swing while stirring her soup, then tapped the Emperor's armored leg with her wooden spoon. That would have been a killing blow if I'd been using a real weapon, she observed. Your armor leaves your joints exposed. Poor design. The Emperor began a series of complex sword techniques that represented centuries of martial tradition. Myungja moved between his attacks like she was navigating a busy kitchen, never stopping her cooking preparations. You're very athletic, she told him while adding seasonings to her pot. But you fight like someone who's never had to worry about opponents fighting back. All offense, no adaptation. Veldrak's attacks became more desperate. His sword work was technically perfect, but Myungja had identified his fundamental weakness. He had trained against opponents who were afraid of him. She showed no fear, only mild interest in his technique. The secret to victory soup, she said conversationally while avoiding a particularly aggressive thrust, is knowing when to add each ingredient. Too early, and the flavors don't develop properly. Too late, and they don't have time to blend. She caught the Emperor's sword arm with her left hand while stirring with her right. Like right now. This is the perfect time to add the final seasoning. With a move that looked more like a cooking demonstration than a combat technique, she disarmed the Emperor and guided him to a sitting position on the floor. Her wooden spoon rested against his throat, held there not as a threat but as a gentle reminder of who had won. And that, she said, serving him a bowl of soup, is how you make victory soup. The station was silent except for the gentle bubbling of the pot. The Emperor of the Galaxy sat on the floor holding a bowl of soup, staring at a grandmother who had just defeated him without breaking a sweat. It's good, he admitted after tasting the soup. Thank you, dear. Would you like the recipe? Yes, I would like the recipe. The galactic audience had just witnessed the most polite defeat in military history. The Emperor had not been humiliated. He had been educated. And somehow, that was more devastating than any conventional victory could have been. 6 months later, the former Velthari Empire had restructured itself into the reformed Democratic Federation of formerly embarrassed worlds. Ex-Emperor Veldrak, now calling himself Citizen, Veldrak worked as a motivational speaker, specializing in the topic of learning from massive personal failures. His most popular lecture was titled How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Start Cooking, a former tyrant's guide to personal growth. Admiral Taeho Kim had been promoted to the newly created position of Galactic Defense Coordinator. His job was to evaluate the military competence of any species that thought about conquering their neighbors. It's simple, he explained to the Galactic Council. Before any species is allowed to make territorial demands, they have to demonstrate that they can actually fight. We test them against prepared opponents using standardized scenarios, and if they fail, ask the representative from the Corvani. They get sent to remedial military training. We have several excellent instructors available. The testing program had been remarkably effective. In 6 months, 12 different species had attempted to begin conquest campaigns. All 12 had failed the competency test so badly that they abandoned their military ambitions in favor of trade and diplomacy. The galaxy had learned a simple lesson. Bullies only work when their victims are afraid. Once the fear was gone, bullies became laughable. News anchor Hye-Wan Kwan was covering the anniversary of the War of Wounded Pride from her studio on Luna Station. The conflict had officially lasted 3 months, though most historians agreed that it had ended the moment Admiral Kim started laughing at the first alien ultimatum. Today marks 1 year since the Velthari Empire's final surrender, she reported. The war that began with threats of galactic domination ended with the Empire's leaders asking for cooking lessons and tactical advice. She turned to face another camera. In related news, Emperor Veldrak's autobiography, From Tyranny to Casseroles: My Journey to Self-Awareness, has become the galaxy's best-selling self-help book. The former emperor will be signing copies at the Luna Colony Community Center this weekend. The war's impact on galactic politics has been profound. The number of attempted conquests has dropped to 0, while applications for diplomatic training programs have increased by 400%. Several former warrior cultures have converted their military academies into culinary schools. In military news, Admiral Bo-Ra Lee reported that humanity's defense forces remain on standard alert status. When asked about potential future threats, Admiral Lee stated, and I quote, "We are always ready for the next group of overconfident amateurs who think intimidation tactics work on people who've seen it all before." This has been Haiwan Quan, reporting from Luna Station. Good night, and remember, the universe is a safer place when everyone knows how to laugh at themselves. The broadcast ended, but the lessons continued to spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had shown that the most effective response to aggression wasn't matching force with force. It was responding with the kind of casual competence that made aggressors question their life choices. The Velthari had challenged humanity, expecting fear and submission. Instead, they had received education, entertainment, and eventually friendship. They had learned that being laughed at was somehow more transformative than being defeated in battle. And across the galaxy, other species were learning that there were alternatives to conquest and intimidation. They could choose cooperation over conflict, humor over hatred, and growth over domination. The war of wounded pride had ended not with the destruction of an enemy, but with the creation of better neighbors. It had become the galaxy's most successful example of how to turn opponents into allies through the simple act of refusing to take their threats seriously. Humanity had answered the Empire's challenge with ridicule, and in doing so, had taught the galaxy how to laugh at its own fears. The laughter, it turned out, was the beginning of wisdom. In her small apartment on Luna Colony, Myung-Ja Song continued teaching cooking classes to anyone who wanted to learn. Her students now included former Imperial officers, alien diplomats, and curious beings from across the galaxy who had heard about the grandmother who had defeated an emperor with kindness and soup. The secret to any good recipe, she would tell her classes, is understanding that ingredients are just the beginning. The real magic happens when you add patience, respect, and just a little bit of love. "Does that work for more than just cooking?" a young Velthari student asked one day. Myung-Ja smiled. "Dear, it works for everything." Outside the classroom windows, the galaxy continued its daily routine. Ships moved between stars carrying goods instead of weapons.